Plant Junkies? Jody here for another plant video from plantjunkiecreations.com. Today I'm going to be going over the basic plant care of this beautiful Hoya known as the Hoya Walliniana Variegata, as well as give you guys some tips on how I successfully propagated this plant. I just want to give a moment to appreciate how beautiful this plant is. I'm really happy I purchased her because she brings a lot of joy to my heart with how just this pink variegation, and her new leaves are just coming in so beautiful and pink. The light requirement for this plant can tolerate bright indirect light, as well as a couple feet away of a south facing window of direct light. This plant also does really well under artificial lighting, and what I absolutely adore about variegated Hoyas is when this plant becomes sun stressed, it develops more pink in color. And if you notice, I have some new leaves coming in that are just pink and vibrant. The water requirement for this plant, like I always say, just depends on what type of pot you're using and what size. With this Hoya, I prefer to use terracotta pot, and I water this 4.5-inch terracotta pot on a 10-day cycle. This Hoya does enjoy drying out in between watering, so you just want to make sure that it's dry. And a tip for that is when you're using terracotta, you can usually see when it's just freshly watered, it is dark in color. So this is dark in color. Opposed to, I also have a terracotta lid here. You see the difference there? You can also feel on terracotta, you can actually feel the moisture in the pot as well. For my propagation here, I also water on a 10-day cycle. I really like to push it out instead of overwatering because you can't reverse the effects that you've done if you overwater. The soil requirement for this plant really enjoys a well-draining epiphytic mix. I've developed a chunky mix that looks like this and consists of sphagnum peat moss, cocoa core, coconut husk, tree fern, pine bark, perlite, charcoal, and a little bit of worm casting. The fertilizer requirement for this plant, you typically want to fertilize 2 times a month during the growing season. In general, Hoyas don't need a whole lot of fertilizer, so whichever fertilizer you choose to use, I would cut that dose in half or even just use a quarter. What I like to use, I rotate between, and I use Orchid Bloom as well as Gringo Rasta Rise Up. When propagating the Hoya Walliniana Variegata, I chose to propagate her in perlite. And after 2 weeks, her roots were strong and long enough for me to put her in her own little terracotta pot, which this plant is listed at my shop at plantjunkiecreations.com. And since I've taken this cutting, she's put off 2 new leaves right here, and you won't be able to see, but she's put off a little growth point there. She's very tiny, and she's really just loving her little home. When I took that cutting from this plant, I noticed that she's putting off 2 new growth points, which is super exciting for me. So I'm going to point it out and then I'll hold it steady for you. So right here and right here. When I took this cutting, as well as transplanting her into her own little terracotta pot, I provided a greenhouse through a prop box, which provided the key elements for propagation, which is light, which provides heat, and then humidity. I have a video to the basics of propagation. I'll put a link up here, so if you guys need a little help with that or some tips, go check that video out. If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to hit that like button. Also, if you're interested in plant care content, click on that icon to subscribe to my channel.